Hey gamers, this is Ed Park, aka Taugrim. This is my review of the Tier 7 German medium tank, the Panther, in World of Tanks. As you can see, the gun is what I call a bleeder gun. It has very low alpha damage of 135, but very high penetration of 198, and you'll see that put to good use throughout this match. Relative to other tanks of its tier, the tank does have low alpha damage, so it's not really built for brawling. I choose not to go to hill. A lot of Uticums actually favor going to the water path to have shots both on hill and also cover the west flank. So that's what I go ahead and do here, set up shop. I was spotted as I crossed the water. It was probably by the Comet that made it to the top of the hill. He's so fast, but by this time I've probably been dropped from view, so I'm safe. So I'm pre-aiming my gun at the top of the hill. I was expecting some of the enemy tanks to rush up to the top of the hill, but it looks like it's just the Comet who made it to the top, and then we fry that American tank that tried to come over. So I'm careful to not overexpose my hull as I'm looking for targets, and the one thing I always tell people is you just need one target to start to DPM. Okay, so this KV-1S has its turret turned slightly to the side, and this gun is very accurate. You can see this is a pretty decent range shot. The next couple shots actually bounced, which surprised me. The front armor, hull armor of the KV-1S is about 75 millimeters, and the hull is only slightly angled, but despite that, I did get a couple bounces even though I have 198 armor penetration. What I probably should have done is just continue to shoot the side of the turret, kind of the side of the head, but at any rate, at least I landed 3 damaging shots on the KV-1S and made it much easier to burn him down. I take a peek over here to the island to see if any enemy tanks are there. I snapshot that IS and miss, but I spot a KV-1, get the first shot, and then I carefully angle so that most of my hull is hidden behind the rock or heavily angled. And the KV-1S, once he fires, it's easy for me to see him. His armor is not going to be good enough to stop me, basically where I'm aiming, the lower front glacis at this distance. And of course, since he's moving back to try to get out of the way, his shots are going to be a lot less accurate. So he only lands one shot against my 4. And then I see a IS-7 trying to cross the water. It's a good opportunity to try to snipe him, so I pull forward here. And with my first shot, I managed to track him. So he's rooted, and my next shot actually sets him on fire right here. And I continue firing. He's dropped from my view, but I'm assuming he might still be there. He's tracked, and this gun has a pretty good rate of fire. It doesn't have high damage per minute because of the low alpha, but if I can sit here and bleed out a tank, I'll do it, especially an IS-7, which has both pretty solid armor as well as very dangerous alpha damage. Okay, so I move forward to spot him, see if he's still alive, and I try to snapshot him there before he gets around that rock. But as you can see, his hit points are severely crippled. He was at full health before I started to shoot at him, and it looked like Artie also tagged him when he was rooted. Okay, so the Hellcat that was here on this west island with me is dead, and so I'm the last one holding this west flank. I go ahead and push up. There was an ELC light tank that finished the Hellcat, and I want to see if he's still up here. I have to be really careful as I approach the crest of this hill, this rock, and this bush, because ideally I'd like to spot some of the tanks that are in their base, but if they have snipers that are sitting in camouflage and they're not moving, they're going to have a higher camouflage bonus than me as I continue to move up, and there's the real chance that I'll get spotted before they do and I'll take some damage. I've been careful so far to try to preserve my HP. It's really important. You want your gun active during the early and mid game, but you want to try to take as little damage as possible, especially since a tank like the Panther doesn't have particularly strong armor. You're not going to bounce a lot of shots. So initially my thought process was, okay, this is mid game, let me go ahead and move up to the hill so I can spot their base and shoot down on their tanks, but our eastern flank gets rocked. I take a shot there at the ELC AMX, and he turns around right before my shot's able to land, but I have to stop getting into the base. If he spots our 3 arteries, it's pretty much game over, and right now we're losing by a score of 8-10. Thankfully, a friendly M6 tank did have the same idea as me, and he went and moved up to the top of the hill, which is a good idea. That'll give him a good field to fire. That was a bad shot on my part. I should have been leading the ELC a little bit more. I clip him there as he dips in behind a tank, and thankfully, because I've moved up to cover the eastern flank, I did have an enemy tank destroyer spotted, and our arties were able to burn him down, and then I finish off the ELC AMX. I'm also trying to move and stay close to the rocks here to try to be arty safe. And as I come up to the edge here, you'll see I spot one of the enemy arties in their base. And most medium tanks tend to have pretty good vision control or view range mechanics, and to help boost that, I slot the coded optics equipment, as well as trained recon on my commander and situation awareness on the radio operator. So here's a really kind of very tense moment. This T-25 AT comes down the hill, tries to flank me behind. I back up parallel to him, and then as he starts to cut the angle, I go ahead and move forward to try to throw off a shot. I managed to juke him. A bit lucky there, but I tag him twice and already put his hit points low, so I was able to finish him. And then I run as quickly as possible away from that Tiger P. The Tiger P should have actually pushed up on me. The second I was engaged with the T-25 AT and had my butt facing him, he should have just come and started shooting me in the rear of my tank, where it's very unprotected. But sometimes players can be, don't take advantage or exploit situations where they really should. So thankfully, I didn't take any damage from the T-25 AT. Again, definitely a bit of luck, and that juking right at the end there might have saved me from eating a pretty painful shot. All right, so my arties don't really have much of a shot. You can see one friendly arty actually moved to mid, but the other arties that were trying to fire on this Tiger P can't hit him because he's arty safe. He's really hugging the rocks here. And I missed an opportunity right here as I cross over. I should have tried a snapshot and just tried to hit him, and then as I'm rushing to make a shot there, that snapshot misses. I think I just clipped the side of the building. The Tiger P, he has better alpha than I do. His alpha is going to be about 240, and then that shot should have been a little bit higher. I wasn't aiming quite high enough. The Tiger P has weak side armor and weak cupola, that's the hatch on top of the turret, as well as weak cheeks or sides of his turret. You'll see me take advantage of that here. So I'm snapshotting as I'm moving back, and I'm trying to move back and forth constantly to make myself a more difficult target for arty to hit. But every time my aiming reticle is up, I go ahead and slow down, and you can see I'm tagging this Tiger P in the top of his turret, the turret cheeks and the cupola. I did get hit by arty there. Thankfully, it wasn't a direct hit, just kind of more splash damage. So I'm still doing okay in terms of HP, and I go ahead and repair the crew member there. If like when your driver's hurt, basically your driving capability kind of drops in half. So I go ahead and burn a first aid kit to get him back. And I'm trying to move here carefully between buildings. I'm hoping to spot their remaining arty and the TD. It's a tier 5 TD, so it's not as scary as one of the upper tier TDs that we've already killed. You'll notice that a lot of the shots that I'm taking against the Tiger P are snapshots, so I'm firing before the aiming reticle is fully closed, but I'm able to do that because of the high rate of fire and because the gun is fairly accurate. I missed an opportunity there to snapshot the tank. His turret was turned sideways. He gets me since my armor is pretty flat, but before he can pull around the corner, I do finish him off with a snapshot. And I start moving again. I was originally planning on going around the hill and getting up top so I'd have a better field of vision, and the arty there just missed me. Of course, I'm always trying to move, but as it turns out, the two friendly arties who are with me start pushing up on this side. They're getting kind of antsy, and they spot the grill, so I go ahead and push up on the side here now that we know where their arty is, and at this point the game is pretty much done. The Panther was a very pleasant surprise. I was not expecting to enjoy the tank because the alpha damage of 135 is so anemic, but the penetration really makes up for it, and the gun handling's pretty solid, and it's sufficiently mobile to flex. So very surprisingly fun tank. It's a tank that a lot of people really complain about when working up the E50M line, but I found it to be pretty functional. I will be reviewing the other tanks, the Panther II, a tier 8, and then the E50 tier 9 tank as I work my way up to the E50M, which I can already tell you I know I'm going to love because the E50 just rocks. I managed to get my Ace Tanker Mastery Badge, and I deal 3,700 damage, get 5-6 kills here, Top Gun, as well as a few spots. Let me know what questions you have. Before you ask, let me just say, yes, I am planning on playing WildStar. I just didn't want to burn out the beta, so I'm going to be playing the game pretty fresh. Hope you enjoyed the video. Take care.